However, after 70 years of marriage, Prince Philip made a shocking decision. This unexpected move left the public wondering what went wrong. For years, the truth remained a mystery. Alongside King Charles and Prince Andrew, behind their father's departure. For years, there have been different speculations about and not live with the Queen in his final years. Princess Anne often called her father's favorite, and her brothers, Prince Charles and Prince Andrew, have supported her claims. Unlike the formal and distant relationship often seen in royal families, she was known as her father's girl, abrasive, stubborn, strong-willed, and sarcastic, which was often at the expense of others, who didn't understand things as quickly as they did. Neither Prince Philip nor Princess Anne could see wrong in the other. Over the years, Princess Anne witnessed what was happening between her parents. Anne knew the truth and saw firsthand what lay behind the perfect smiles, but that's not all. Prince Philip also confided in his daughter. However, to truly understand the reason why Prince Philip chose to move away, when it all started, Queen Elizabeth, formerly Princess Elizabeth, he was 13 and she was just 8 years old. At this time, Princess Elizabeth was 13 and Prince Philip was 18. They were meant to meet with some of the cadets, but things didn't go as planned due to an outbreak of mumps and chickenpox during the visit. They spent time in the headmaster's house, and Prince Philip came to entertain the young princesses. Eventually, Philip got tired of sitting inside the house and asked instead. He began playing croquet, jumping over tennis nets, and displaying a carefree, athletic spirit. And from that moment, she later claimed that she never had eyes for anyone else after that day, and began exchange navy during the war years. By 1946, Philip returned from the in June. He proposed to her on the grounds of Balmoral. However, despite the proposal, Queen Elizabeth's father, King George VI, was reluctant about a marriage between them. Perhaps she would meet someone else and change her mind about Philip. Her intention to marry Elizabeth's proposal within the royal family, making him and Elizabeth third cousins, too German, too Greek. But Elizabeth was insistent. She had made up her mind about Philip and was determined to marry him. After Elizabeth's 21st birthday, that a formal announcement ahead of his marriage to Elizabeth, Philip had to renounce and become a member of the Church of England. Though he had been baptized in the Greek Orthodox Church into the Church of England on October 3, 1947. On November 20, 1947, Princess Elizabeth married Philip in Westminster Abbey in London, the home of Philip's uncle. But little did Philip know that his life in ways he never imagined. Rapidly progressing through the ranks, Philip's naval career flourished and he was eventually posted to Malta. They enjoyed a relatively, but everything in their lives was about to take a new turn. This was just 5 years after their marriage. Elizabeth, who was just 25 years old, was now the queen, but things had to adjust to a new reality, under the throne. But fate had now Elizabeth was going to become queen while her husband Philip, what was not a king, but someone who would remain in the although this was known all along, this was going to affect their whole relationship might have had within the Royal Navy. And let's not forget, this was the 1950s. For decades, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth showed unwavering support and love for each other. He no longer wanted to live with the Queen. Was this decision personal, or was there more to the story? But in a surprising revelation, Princess Anne has finally revealed the real reason. Stay tuned as we uncover the untold story of why Prince Philip didn't live with the Queen in Buckingham Palace. Princess Anne, the only daughter of Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth, has left people stunned with her revelation about why Prince Philip chose to leave Buckingham Palace. But
Their
now,
relationship quickly
the truth is
deepened,
finally
but in
out,
June, he proposed
has
to her
shared
on
the real
grounds of
reason
Balmoral
behind her
that
father's
in a letter
decision.
dated back to
Stay tuned
1946,
as we
he wrote,
uncover the
"To
full
have been
story.
spared in the war and seen
Princess
victory,
Anne and her
to have been
father,
given the
Prince
chance
Philip,
to rest
shared
and
a
to
close
readjust
bond,
myself,
likely
to have
because of
fallen
their
in
similar
love
traits of
completely
being
and unreservedly
outspoken
makes
and with
all
a sharp
one's
sense of
personal and even the
humor.
world's
They
troubles
both
seem
enjoyed
small and
suffering
petty.
fools and had little patience
Despite
with
the
those, but what
proposal,
stood out was
Queen
their
Elizabeth's
unwavering
father,
loyalty.
King George VI,
Instead,
was
they
hesitant
playfully
about the
criticize
marriage.
each other while
He
maintaining
worried
deep
that
respect,
Elizabeth was too young
while
and
her
might be
brothers were
settling for
often
the first
preoccupied
man
with
she
their
met.
royal duties.
He feared
And perfect
she might
royal
meet
couple,
someone else
her
later
parents
and
presented
change
to
her
the
mind
world
about Philip. Because of this
about some of the
concern,
challenges
the
he
royal
faced in his
family
marriage
stayed
to Queen
silent about
Elizabeth.
Philip's intention
We need to go
marry
back to the
Elizabeth.
beginning, even before
There was
Princess
also
Anne and her
resistance
brothers were
within the
born.
royal family.
First, met Prince
Despite
Philip,
being
an
of royal
exiled Greek
lineage and
prince, at a
direct
wedding in
descendant of Queen
1934.
Victoria, making him and
However,
Elizabeth
there was
third
no spark
cousins.
between them
Many
until
viewed him
5
as
years
too
later
brusque,
they met
too
again.
unpolished,
However,
too German,
the princess
too Greek,
wasn't alone.
and too
Her
un-English to
parents
marry
and sister were
Princess
on a visit
Elizabeth,
to the
but
Britannia
Elizabeth
Royal
was
Naval
determined.
College, Dartmouth,
She had made
Devon.
up her mind about Philip
Philip
and was
was
set
one
on
of them.
marrying him. It
Instead of
wasn't until
attending a
year
chapel
later,
service
in
like they were
July
supposed to, that he was one of those
after
who weren't
Elizabeth's
infected by the
21st
virus.
birthday,
The princesses to come outside. This caught Princess Elizabeth's attention. She fell in love.
Philip had to renounce
After
his
this
Danish and
encounter,
Greek royal
the princess
titles
developed
and
a
become
strong
member of the
teenage
Church
crush
of
on
England.
Philip, exchanging letters with him while he
Philip
was
did
serving
this
with the
willingly
Royal
because
Navy.
of his
Elizabeth
love for
even kept a
Elizabeth,
picture of him
even
in
though
her
he had been
bedroom
baptized
as a
in the
sign of
Greek Orthodox
admiration.
Church. The
Pacific Theater in his
Archbishop of
relationship with
Canterbury
Princess
formally
Elizabeth
received
blossomed.
Philip into the Church
He
of
feared
England on
Elizabeth was too
October
young
3rd,
and settling for the first
1947.
man she met.
He also
Because of
adopted
this,
the new,
the royal family
anglicized
remained
surname
quiet about.
Mountbatten.
Additionally,
On November 20th,
there was some resistance to
1947,
Philip, despite
Princess
Philip being
Elizabeth
of
married
royal
Philip at
lineage and
Westminster
direct
Abbey in
descendants
London.
of Queen Victoria.
They later
Many
went
saw
on
Philip
their
to be
honeymoon
too
at
brusque,
Broadlands in Hampshire,
too
England,
unpolished,
the home
too
of Philip's uncle,
un-English to
Earl
marry
Mountbatten.
Princess Elizabeth.
But little did Philip
It wasn't
know that
until
his
a
life
year
was
later,
about to
in
change
July
ways he could never have
1947,
imagined.
announcement
After
was
the wedding,
made on their
Prince Philip
engagement.
continued serving
His
in the Navy
Danish
and
and
rose
Greek
quickly through the
royal
ranks.
titles. Philip did
A year
this
later,
without
they welcomed their
hesitation
first son,
because of his love
Charles,
for Elizabeth.
followed by their daughter, and
The
God,
Archbishop
Philip's
of
naval
Canterbury
career continued to
formally
flourish.
received Philip. He also
He was
adopted a new
eventually posted to
anglicized
Malta.
last name,
Princess
Mountbatten.
Elizabeth traveled there
They
to
later
be
went
with
for
him
their
while the
honeymoon
children
at the
stayed
Broadlands
England.
in Hampshire,
For a short
England.
time, they enjoyed
Earl
a
Mountbatten.
relatively normal life.
Life was about to change.
But everything was about
After
to
the
change
wedding,
dramatically.
Prince Philip
In
continued serving in the Navy.
1952,
A year
King
later,
George VI
they had
fell
their first son,
seriously ill and
Charles,
died.
followed by their daughter,
This happened
Anne.
just 5 years after their marriage.
Princess Elizabeth traveled
and
to be with
Philip's
him while the
world
kids
turned
stayed
upside
back in
down.
England. Normal life for a short
Elizabeth,
while.
only 25
In
years
1952,
old, was now
King
queen.
George fell ill and
Philip,
died.
then 30,
Elizabeth and
had
Philip's
to
world
adjust to an
turned
entirely
upside
new
down.
reality.
And
They had
Philip, who
expected
was
to have
30
more
years
time
old,
to
they
live
had
their
thought
own lives
they would
and
have
enjoy
more
each
time
other
to live
before
their own
Elizabeth
lives and
ascended the
enjoy
throne.
themselves before Elizabeth
But fate
set
had
other
other
plans.
Now
He to
Elizabeth
become
was queen.
shadows
and
of his
Philip,
wife,
what
Queen
was he to
Elizabeth.
become?
Elizabeth's
Not a
succession
king,
meant he had to
but
give up
someone
any
who would remain
ambitions he might.
forever
For a
in the
man
shadow
used
of
to
his
commanding
wife.
ships,
Queen
suddenly being
Elizabeth
relegated to a
II,
supporting
although this
role
had
could
always
not have been
known,
easy.
the
And
reality
it was
hit
extremely
hard.
rare for a husband to.
Elizabeth's ascension meant Philip had to give up any
However,
personal
after
ambitions
70
he might
years
have
of
had in the
marriage,
Royal
Prince
Navy.
Philip
For
made a
man
shocking
accustomed to
decision.
commanding ships,
This unexpected
suddenly being
move left the
reduced to a
public wondering
supporting
what went
role
wrong.
could not have been easy. And remember, this was the 1950s,
Alongside
a time when
King
it was
Charles
extremely
and Prince
rare for a
Andrew
husband
behind
to be outranked and
their
controlled by his
father's
wife,
departure,
especially when that wife was the #1 citizen of the country.
and not
Duty
live
came before
with the
family.
Queen in his final
This
years.
marked the beginning of a lifelong struggle
Princess
for
Anne,
Philip,
often
one
called
that
her
would
father's
eventually
favorite,
influence his decision to live separately from the Queen in his later years. But how exactly did it unfold?
Unlike the formal and distant relationship often seen in royal families, she was known as her father's girl.
Trip in Kenya when Philip informed her of her father's death. Elizabeth immediately
Which was often at the
understood
expense
what was
of
required
others.
of her.
Those who
They
didn't
returned to the
understand
UK
things as
without
quickly
delay.
as they
Upon
did.
arrival, Elizabeth became Queen Elizabeth II. But Philip's title remained unchanged.
Over the years, Princess
He was
Anne
not
witnessed
named
what was
King
happening
Consort.
between her parents.
Instead, he was given
Anne knew the
title of
truth
Royal
and saw
Consort.
firsthand
Despite
what
this,
lay behind
Prince
the the
Philip
perfect
showed
smiles.
unwavering support for his wife. He left his career in the Royal Navy
However,
to serve the
to
monarchy,
truly understand the
but this
reason
was
why
only
Prince
the
Philip
first of
chose to
many
move away,
changes Next,
when it
they
all
moved from
started.
their previous home at Clarence House to Buckingham Palace. On June
He was
2,
13, and she was just 8
a
years
year
old.
after Queen
At
Elizabeth
this
had
time,
ascended
Princess
the throne,
Elizabeth was
her
13 and
coronation
Prince
took
Philip
place
was
at
18.
Westminster Abbey in London. After the
But
Archbishop
things
of
didn't go as
Canterbury
planned
crowned her,
due to an
Philip was
outbreak
the
of
first
mumps
to
and
kneel
chicken
before the
pox
new
during the
monarch
visit.
and pledged to
He
be
spent
her
time
liege
in the
man of life
headmaster's
and
house,
limb.
and Prince
But
Philip
was he
came to
truly
entertain
able
the
to
young
fulfill that
princesses.
It was easier said than done for a man to live under a woman's
Instead,
authority,
he began
giving up
playing
his own
croquet,
aspirations and
jumping over
dreams to
tennis
support
nets,
Queen
and
Elizabeth
displaying a
II.
carefree
Philip
athletic
also had to
spirit.
adjust to walking
And from
a
that
few
moment,
steps behind his wife in public instead of beside her. He later revealed that he thought
and
he was
began
going to have
exchange
a long
Navy
career in the
during the
Navy,
war
but it
years.
soon became obvious there was no hope. He had to
In June,
compromise.
he
Philip
proposed to her
accepted
on the
his new
grounds of
reality and
Balmoral.
tried to make the best of it.
However, despite the proposal,
early
Queen
conflicts
Elizabeth's
arose
father,
between
King
Elizabeth
George
and
VI,
Philip
was
after she
reluctant
became
about a
queen.
marriage
One
between
of the
them.
most notable disputes occurred when Philip's uncle, Louis Dickey Mountbatten,
Intention to marry
declared
Elizabeth,
the House of
his
Mountbatten
proposal
now
within the
reigns in
royal
England.
family.
This implied that since Queen Elizabeth was married,
Too
her
German,
royal children would bear
too
her
Greek.
husband's surname.
But Elizabeth
However,
was insistent.
Elizabeth's grandmother,
She had made up
Queen
her
Mary,
mind
and
about
Prime
Philip
Minister
and was
Winston
determined
Churchill did
to
not
marry
agree.
him.
They insisted that Queen Elizabeth and her descendants would
Ahead of his
continue
marriage
under
to
the House of
Elizabeth,
Windsor,
Philip
preserving
had to
her
renounce
father's legacy.
and become
Philip
a member
was
of the
deeply
Church
hurt
of
by this
England.
decision. He said he was nothing but a bloody amoeba,
Into the Church of
only man in the
England on
country who
October
wasn't
3,
allowed to pass his name to
1947.
his children.
On November 20,
His words expressed his deep
1947,
frustration and
Princess
struggle to
Elizabeth
establish his own
married Philip in
identity within the
Westminster
monarchy.
Abbey in
When
London.
Queen Elizabeth heard her husband's words, she
But
decided
little
to
did
make
Philip
a
know
change,
that his
breaking
ways he never
long-standing tradition
imagined.
that in February 1960 she announced that her descendants would bear the surname
Philip's naval
Mountbatten
career
Windsor,
flourished, and he was
a
eventually
combination of her
posted
husband's
to
and her
Malta.
own family name, while
They enjoyed a
Elizabeth was
relatively-
the head of the monarchy. Prince Philip took on the role of royal consort.
This was just 5 years
But
after
his
their
position
marriage.
was never clearly
Elizabeth, who was
defined,
just
that he once
25
told
years old,
Giles
was now the
Brandreth that
queen.
He was often seen as a refugee husband.
Handed the
Despite
throne.
his efforts to
But
make
fate
the best of the
now
situation,
Elizabeth was going to become
he
queen
struggled
while her
to carve
husband
out a
Philip,
meaningful role for
what was-
himself within an institution centered entirely on his wife.
Although this was known
leaving
all
him
along,
permanently in
this
the
was going to
shadows.
affect
Prince
their
Philip
whole
described
relationship.
his experience as
Might have
royal
had
consort
within
as
the
one
Royal
of
Navy.
trial and error. Although he wasn't the first royal consort
For
in
decades,
history,
Prince
he
Philip
faced
and Queen
challenges with
Elizabeth
no
showed
real precedent
unwavering
to follow.
support and
Prince
love for
Philip
each
admitted
other.
that when he asked
He no
what was
longer wanted
expected
to
of him
live
as
with the
royal
Queen.
consort, people had no real answer. They simply looked blank. However,
But in a surprising
one thing was clear
revelation,
to Philip.
Princess
His
Anne
first duty
along
was
has
to
finally
serve his
revealed
wife,
the
Queen
real
Elizabeth, in
reason.
the best way he could. This stood in contrast to Prince Philip's dynamic, driven, and outspoken personality, much like his daughter Princess Anne. But he
Princess
carried it
Anne,
out with complete
the only daughter
devotion
of
that
Prince
in his
Philip and
early
Queen
years,
Elizabeth,
Prince Philip
has left
focused
people
on
stunned with her
modernizing the
revelation
monarchy, fearing
on
it
why
could
Prince
become
Philip
nothing
chose
more
to
than a
leave
museum
Buckingham
piece.
Palace.
But this wasn't without resistance. He
Has
faced
shared the real
pushback from
reason
the old
behind
guard
her
who
father's
wanted to preserve
decision.
tradition.
Stay
Philip
tuned
didn't back
as we
down.
uncover the full
He
story.
proposed broadcasting the coronation of Elizabeth II live on television, declaring
Likely
it would
because
be
of their similar
unfit for the
traits of being
ceremony to be presented
outspoken
as if
and with
it
a
were
sharp sense of
theatrical
humor.
performance. More than 20 million people tuned in to watch the
But what
televised
stood out was their
coronation,
unwavering
proving his
loyalty.
foresight.
Instead,
This was the
they
first
playfully
time the
criticize
monarchy
each
had been
other
made
while
slightly
maintaining
more
deep
visible
respect.
To the public. Philip also became the first royal family member to sit for a television interview.
and perfect royal couple
About a
her
decade
parents
later,
presented
they
to the
invited
world
cameras into their homes for a
about some of the
behind-the-scenes
challenges he faced in his
documentary. But
marriage
that
to Queen
wasn't all.
Elizabeth.
Philip encouraged Elizabeth to
Even
end the
before
outdated
Princess Anne and
practice
her
of
brothers
presenting
were born.
debutantes at court.
First, met
He
Prince
introduced
Philip,
informal
an
lunches
exiled
and
Greek
garden
prince at
parties
a
to
wedding
connect
in
with a broader
1934.
cross-section of the British public that he took steps to reorganize and renovate the royal estates.
However,
he generally
the
worked to
princess
make the
wasn't
royal
alone.
household,
Her parents and
monarchy
sister were on a
itself
visit to the
less rigid
Britannia
and
Royal
formal.
Naval
Prince
College,
Philip had plenty of
Dartmouth,
time to himself
Devon.
with fewer official
Philip
duties,
was one of
so
them.
he explored his personal interests. By the 1980s he had
He was
written
one of
9
those who
books
weren't
that he
infected
also
by the
encouraged
virus.
Elizabeth,
The
in
princesses to come
1957,
outside.
to televise her annual Christmas messages.
She fell in love.
He taught
After
her
this
how to use
encounter,
a teleprompter
the princess
that he was
developed
the
a strong
first member of
teenage
the royal
crush on
family
Philip.
to use a computer, even writing his emails and speeches
Elizabeth
on
even
it.
kept
Prince
a picture
Philip
of
was
him
a
in her
man of
bedroom
endless
as a
curiosity.
sign of
Queen
admiration.
Elizabeth did her best
Pacific
to
Theater and his
include Philip
relationship
in her
with Princess
public
Elizabeth
speeches,
blossomed.
often saying, "My husband and I," which became a national joke. But Philip was never
Because
just
of
a
this,
figurehead.
the royal family remained
Despite
quiet
the
about.
challenges
Additionally,
the crown brought,
there was some
they faced it
resistance to
together.
Philip.
In family matters, Elizabeth allowed him to take the lead. But in state matters,
Many
he
saw
had no
Philip to
real
be
authority.
too brusque,
However,
too
there were moments
unpolished,
when he treated her
too
like an ordinary
un-English
wife,
to marry Princess
even in
Elizabeth.
public. For instance, while Prince Philip was driving Elizabeth to Coworth Park, his
Announcement was made on their engagement. His Danish and Greek
she drew in
royal
breath at
titles.
critical moments. Eventually Philip exploded and said if she did it again he would put her out
The
of the
Archbishop
car.
of Canterbury
Although she was queen,
formally
she
received
composed herself
Philip.
and
He
didn't
also
protest.
adopted a new
However,
anglicized
there were
last
also
name,
times when she asserted her
Mountbatten.
authority, even in front of staff. Sometimes she would yell at him to shut
Earl
up,
Mountbatten.
which often caused him
Life
to
was
leave
about
the
to
room in
change.
frustration. Like any couple, they had their ups and downs.
A year later,
However,
they had their first
one
son
thing that has
Charles,
often been
followed
linked to
by their
Prince Philip
daughter
is infidelity
Anne.
rumors. Rumors circulated
Princess
that he was
Elizabeth traveled to be
unfaithful,
with him while the
mainly
kids
because of
stayed
his
back in
naturally
England.
flirtatious manner, which made him the center of gossip.
In
His
1952,
involvement in activities
King George
like his
fell ill
gentleman's lunch
and
club
died.
his tours on the
Elizabeth
Royal
and
Yacht
Philip's
Britannia
world
in the
turned upside
1950s
down.
fueled speculation about possible affairs.
They had thought
Over
they would
the
have
years,
more
he was
time to
linked
live their
multiple
own
women,
lives and enjoy
including a
themselves
Russian
before
ballerina,
Elizabeth ascended
an
other
English
plans.
stage actress, and a writer.
Shadows of his
But
wife,
none of these
Queen
alleged
Elizabeth.
affairs were ever confirmed.
Elizabeth's succession meant he had to give up any ambitions he might.
Story claiming Philip was romantically involved with an unnamed woman he met regularly in a West End apartment.
And it was
The palace
extremely
denied
rare
the
for a
story,
husband to.
dismissing any suggestion of a rift between
However,
him and the Queen.
after 70
Prince
years
Philip
of marriage,
also addressed
Prince
the
Philip
rumors
made a shocking
sarcastically,
decision.
asking if anyone had ever seen him go anywhere without a police escort, implying such affairs would have been impossible. However, royal
Alongside King Charles
biographer
and Prince
Sarah
Andrew.
Bradford had a different view. In her biography of Elizabeth, she claimed that since the alleged affair in
And
the
not live
mid-1950s,
with the Queen
Philip had
in
learned
his
to
final
be more
years.
discreet, conducting any flirtations in elite circles grand enough to protect him from the paparazzi and tabloids. Despite all the rumors and speculation, no infidelity was ever proven.
Unlike the formal
Instead,
and distant
what has
relationship
always
often
been
seen in
consistently
royal
clear is
families,
Philip's deep devotion to Queen Elizabeth. During their 50th wedding anniversary, Queen Elizabeth described him
which
as
was
"my
often at
strength
the
and
expense of
stay all."
others.
These years. A fitting start to the celebrations. On the eve of their golden wedding anniversary, the Queen and Prince Philip attended a banquet
Over the
hosted
years,
by London's
Princess Anne
Lord
witnessed
Mayor,
what was
someone
happening
to
between
whom
her
they owed
parents.
more than they would ever claim or they shall ever know. Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip went on to celebrate their diamond and platinum anniversaries, with Elizabeth always
However,
expressing
to truly
gratitude
understand
for
the
his
reason why
unwavering
Prince Philip
support
chose
and
to
love.
move away,
But in 2017 something significant happened that changed their living arrangement.
he was
After more than
13
70 years
and she
of
was just
marriage,
8 years
Queen
old.
Elizabeth and Prince Philip decided to live apart. What could have led to this choice? Keep watching to find out. Prince
But things
Philip
didn't
and
go
Queen
as
Elizabeth
planned
separate
due
in
to an
May
outbreak of mumps and
2017.
chicken
Prince
pox
Philip
during the
announced his
visit.
retirement from public life. Finally tonight, Queen Elizabeth's husband Prince Philip officially retires. It comes after 7 decades in the public eye.
Instead,
However,
he began playing
he didn't
croquet,
fully retire
jumping
until
over tennis
August
nets
2nd,
and displaying a
2017,
carefree
after
athletic
attending his
spirit.
final royal engagement with the Royal Marines at age 96. Buckingham Palace released a statement saying the Duke of
And began
Edinburgh would no
exchange-
longer undertake public engagements, though he might choose to attend certain events alongside the Queen.
In June, he
But
proposed
this
to her on the
rarely
grounds
happened.
of
After
Balmoral.
his retirement, Prince Philip moved from Buckingham Palace to Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate, a place previously known as the home of Prince John, the epileptic youngest son of George V and Queen Mary. Prince
To marry
John lived there
Elizabeth.
in quiet seclusion with his devoted nurse Lala Bill until he died at age 13 in 1919. But why did
Too
Prince
German,
Philip choose to
too
live
Greek.
there? In a 2011 interview, when he was 90, Prince Philip stated that he wanted to enjoy himself. Though he didn't retire until he was 96,
Ahead of
this
his marriage
decision
to
had the
Elizabeth,
full approval of
Philip
the Queen,
had to
who
renounce.
knew how supportive Philip had been and understood that he wanted time for himself. However, when Philip arrived at Sandringham, he was
into the Church
horrified
of
to see a
England
busload
on
of
October
cooks,
3,
telephonists, and
1947.
other staff waiting for him, despite his desire for a simple visit. Regardless, Prince Philip made sure his stay was enjoyable. In the privacy of Sandringham, he embraced the freedom to pursue carriage driving, a new hobby he took up because he could no longer play polo due to arthritis in his wrist.
Philip's naval career flourished, and he was eventually posted to Malta.
Though he later had to stop because he could no longer control the horses. That he also enjoyed painting watercolors and reading.
This was just 5 years after their marriage.
Novels. He discussed these interests with friends. Philip also loved driving, but in January 2019 he had to stop after being involved in a car accident. He drove onto a main road near Sandringham. Queen Elizabeth's 97-year-old
Although this was known all along, this was going to affect their whole relationship.
A car crash where he was at the wheel. His SUV flipped, but he walked away without serious injury.
For decades, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth showed unwavering support and love for each other.
Philip apologized. 3 weeks later he voluntarily surrendered his driving license.
But in a surprising revelation, Princess Anne along
Buckingham Palace today confirming the 97-year-old decided to voluntarily surrender his license. However, he was still allowed to drive on private estates.
Princess Anne, the only daughter of Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth, has left people stunned with her revelation.
Farm turned into a much longer stay. Philip did not return to Buckingham Palace. This was because he knew he would still
has shared the real reason behind her father's decision.
Retirement. Instead, he embraced the peaceful life at Wood Farm Cottage, but this arrangement meant he and the Queen would spend long periods apart.
Likely because of their similar traits of being outspoken,
phone, sharing how their days went. The Queen and other family members also visited Wood Farm.
But what stood out was their unwavering loyalty.
Despite Prince Philip's retreat from public life, he still attended important occasions, including the 2018 royal wedding of Prince Harry, Princess Eugenie, Lady Gabriella Windsor,
and perfect royal
Princess
couple
Beatrice.
her parents presented to the world.
Passed, he began losing longtime friends, one of the burdens of living a long life. Within a year Philip lost 3
even
close
before
friends,
Princess Anne and her brothers were
he
born.
had known passed away, including his valet of 40 years. However, Prince Philip remained remarkably fit and agile for his age, although his short-term memory began to fail as he approached 100. While
However,
everyone else
the
was
princess wasn't
about his
alone.
upcoming 100th
Her parents and
birthday,
sister were on a
Philip
visit to the
wasn't looking
Britannia
forward
Royal
to it.
Naval College,
He
Dartmouth,
disliked the fuss
Devon.
and attention. Philip also continued to travel. He was usually at Windsor during the Easter court.
He was
and on
one of those who
weekends
weren't
at
infected
Broadlands
by
with
the
Queen
virus.
Elizabeth. He enjoyed Balmoral less in his later years, cutting his
She
visits
fell in
short
love.
in 2019 and 2020, and returning to Wood Farm. In 2020 the Queen accompanied him to Sandringham, where Prince Charles
Elizabeth
came over
even
to
kept
see
a
them,
picture of
a
him in her
reversal of
bedroom,
roles.
as a
However,
sign of
their visits
admiration.
were usually brief, as the Queen had to return to attend to state matters. But then something unexpected happened that brought Queen Elizabeth and
Because
Prince
of this,
Philip back
the
together.
royal family
Music.
remained quiet about
COVID-19. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdown was announced in March 2020. Prince Philip
Many
joined
saw Philip
Queen
to be
Elizabeth
too
at
brusque,
Windsor,
too
entering what was
unpolished.
jokingly called HMS Bubble. They stayed in touch with family via Zoom. On July 22, 2020, Philip
was made on their
final
engagement.
public appearance, stepping into the quadrangle at Windsor Castle to hand over his post as Colonel-in-Chief of the Rifles to the Duchess of Cornwall.
The Archbishop
This was the
of
last time
Canterbury
he appeared before
formally
the cameras.
received
In
Philip.
January 2021, Philip and Elizabeth were vaccinated against COVID-19 by a household doctor at Windsor Castle. However, in February 2021 he was admitted to King Edward VII's hospital as a precautionary measure after feeling unwell.
A year
Though he
later,
walked in
they had their
unaided,
first son
the public
Charles,
worried about his
followed
health.
by their daughter,
Buckingham Palace
Anne.
confirmed he was responding to treatment for an infection. He later underwent a successful heart procedure before being discharged.
In
Upon
1952,
returning home,
King George
talk
fell
turned to
ill
his forthcoming
and died.
100th birthday. But Philip wasn't excited, perhaps because he sensed he wouldn't reach it.
They had thought
3 weeks
they would
later,
have more
on the
time to
morning
live
of
their
April
own
9,
lives and enjoy
2021,
themselves before
Prince
Elizabeth
Philip died
ascended.
at the age of 99, with Queen Elizabeth by
Shadows
his
of his
bedside.
wife,
The palace
Queen
described
Elizabeth.
his passing as peaceful. The Queen later admitted that he had left a huge void in her life. Prince Philip was buried on April 17, 2021
And it was extremely
at St. George's
rare for a
Chapel,
husband to
Windsor Castle, temporarily interred alongside 25 other coffins, including that of George III. His last will was not read publicly, but sealed for at least 90 years to protect the Queen's dignity and standing, as there are speculations it might contain material harmful to the reputation of the royal family, reflecting on Prince Philip's legacy. Princess Anne described him as her teacher, supporter, and critic. She expressed deep admiration for him and aspired to emulate his example of a life well lived and service freely given. His ability to treat every person as an individual, recognizing their own skills, was a defining trait throughout his life. She also acknowledged the vital role he played in supporting Queen Elizabeth as she ascended to the throne at such a young age. His unwavering support helped her rule with confidence. Prince Charles paid tribute to his father. He said his father had given the last 70 years of remarkable devotion to the Queen, the royal family, the country, and also the whole of the Commonwealth. He admired his father's dedication and astonishing energy in supporting his mother throughout his life. Prince Andrew, recalling family moments, spoke of Prince Philip as a father who cherished his time with his family. About a year after Prince Philip's death, Queen Elizabeth spoke of her late husband. "I have spoken before of my deep and abiding affection for this wonderful country and of the many happy memories Prince Philip and I always held of our time here. It is often said that it is the people that make a place, and there are few places where this is truer than in Scotland, as we have seen in recent times." Her words reflected the deep bond she and Philip had with Scotland, and how much she missed him. Although Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth spent their final years living apart, he lived a remarkable life. His unwavering support for his wife was extraordinary. A year after his passing, on September 8, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II died at the age of 96. She was laid to rest beside her beloved husband at the King George VI Memorial Chapel. Even in death they remained together. What do you think of Prince Philip's decision to live away from Queen Elizabeth in the later years of his life? Do you think he had a hidden motive other than what was revealed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also click the following video shown on your screen, you will enjoy it. Smiling face with smiling eyes.